that's very good.
Right, here we go.
Thank you for that. And Donna, you were missing out on the culinary delight today, which is Murray's wife, I can assure you. So we had a good break.
She's had it before.
No, it's not too bad for
Thank you for the work today, and appreciate that. We will try and keep this moving. Clearly, there are a couple of key items which will take our time. So I think that the next few items are relatively easy. That's the suggestion on them, isn't it? Could we move to item 4.2, which is receipt of the funding agency's annual report? Donna, is anything that you were going to say or speak?
I just think in the interest of time, I was going to say a little bit, but I think the best thing is if everybody has looked at the summary or actually the letter probably that came from Mark Butcher, that gives a really good summary of the year. And yeah, I guess the main thing to note is despite COVID and all the constraints that they've had or that we have had as a sector, you know, their results are still pretty promising. They've still made record bonds and loans. And it was interesting to note in the report that they did comment that how resilient the whole sector actually has been from a financial perspective throughout COVID, which I thought was interesting.
Great.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the need to probably have someone attending the AGM and able to vote on our behalf. To vote for council. And the reason I say that is because we're all aware of the government's interest in being a part of the local government funding scheme. And I think council needs to do a bit of work on how it's going to position themselves in regard to that decision that they'll need to make and what that will mean and the risks associated with that to the scheme for which the councils are responsible. So you potentially become a default position for the government debt, maybe. So I would be concerned about their involvement in the local government funding scheme, and I don't see that as being an easy thing to deal with.
Yeah, so through the chair, I have the proxy forms. In previous years, there's like the shareholders council, and we give our vote to them. That's how we've normally done it in the past. But if anybody wants to attend, let me know, and we can arrange that.
I think that's something that should be consciously dealt with because of the government's interest in becoming a part. But the council members each have a decision to make around whether they accept them or not in that scheme. That's what I mentioned there. Okay,
so process from here for making that decision. Can we leave it as an open action item then, please? For you to discuss with Aileen and with Sandra.
That doesn't make me name.
When's the AGM?
The AGM is coming up. I think it's November.
Oh, sorry. Well, I still think it would be wise at this stage that there be a decision made this side of the elections, because we're obviously, again, as the outgoing council, the recipients of the service, and we have the strongest view, or the most up-to-date view. So, Laura, I just wonder if you, Aileen, and Sandra can work through what is the appropriate process, including whether that's physical presence or whether they use our proxy and provide direction.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
Jerry?
I've got a little question on clarity, really. The money that the local government lends out to councils and that, if it's lent out for 3 waters and things like that, when that transfer of asset goes across, what happens to that loan in local government?
Well,
so I can give some advice on that. I was recently at the local government funding agency Borrowers Day, and we did have the DIA there, and there were lots and lots of questions put to them about the whole process and about the loans and how it's all going to work. At that particular point, and even still now, the DIA is still fairly sketchy on it, other than saying that we will be it's more than likely that on the 1st of July 24 that we will be paid back. Our loans will be paid back to us. They're still working through with the LGFA what that's going to look like from their point of view, and whether the entities will be bond issuers on their own, or whether they will borrow by LGFA. There's still a lot of work to work through that, and I know LGFA are very involved in that process.
I think the critical thing would be the size of the water service entities and their borrowing program would include a number of sources of debt finance. And
if you go to buy a property, you have your bank loan sorted out. It's all the money's, organised. It seems to me this is a bit of a horse before the cart.
Thank you. That could be an observation, but I don't know that we've got the time to go there with that right at the moment. Yes, sir.
No, but my concern is that from everything I've seen, it's a borrow and spend mentality. There's no indication of payback.
Okay, I hear your point, but I think the point is we've got an action to work out how, as a shareholder with the LGFA, we will go forward in terms of the shareholders meeting, and I guess the broader issues of actually how conducting and developing all service entities as a different debate. Thank you. Can I move to the motion, please, which is that we receive the report? Do I have a second? I'll move that. Thank you, Terry. Any discussion on the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Item 4.3, discretionary fund. Thank you, Mona.
Hey everyone. So just for ease of reference, I assume everyone's read both the policies. We have amalgamated them together. So the merit discretionary policy is for the $10,055. And again, we have just put in there about the principles around why that fund can be dispersed, and who has sign-off authority, accountability, and then also just reporting back to Audit and Risk about where that's spent, and also just criteria about who can apply for it. If anyone was querying how much is in there at the moment, I think there's about 9,855. And then there's separate policy around the Rural Disaster Fund that is from a government allocated fund that all councils are eligible for when they have an event, and they can apply for $100,000.
Yes, thank you for that, Lord. So, firstly,
just got a couple of minor word changes. Instead of meanwhile, but we changed that to in addition, because the Merit Fund has been added to by the Disaster Relief Fund, and so the Disaster Relief Fund is in addition to it, but the policy is separating out the two in terms of their discretion. And if you look further in there where it says event per event, if we could put emergency event, I think we need to qualify what the event is. And then the only other thing that, if I could refer you to the last paragraph of that section of the policy on page 239, the first bullet point says require receipt. Sometimes when you're giving out monies, the recipient doesn't necessarily always have a receipting sort of process. So if we could qualify that, putting where required. So,
yeah, correct, because a lot of times it's the people, just as a...
Yeah, so, well, there may be, so for instance, you might get them to give you, if they have to buy, you're giving some money to say, Terry, who's lost everything,
Yeah.
and he's got to buy, and it's for equipment that he has to buy, he can give you a receipt from the shop. So there's something like that, but where required just qualifies and allows a little bit of room for movement. Just a suggestion of people that
Through the chair, I could suggest that we just, instead of receipt, just say supporting documentation. Then that just means that, it may even just be a letter from them, or something just quantifying or qualifying why they're getting it.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So those were three places, Ilona, which hopefully you've picked up on. The meanwhile's on page 1. The second one was, sorry.
Just adding the word emergency.
Oh, emergency.
In front of the two instances where the word event is.
Emergency event, and Donna's suggestion, I think we've agreed to, which is supporting documentation.
Yeah.
So
So I just had a query at the bottom of page 229, it says reporting. Is that in the current policy?
No, it's not, so that's why that's being added.
Okay. So we wouldn't have been looking for or seen any schedule of what grants have been handed out?
No.
I think it's good protection for the mayor that actually there is that form of accountability, just so it's understood.
It was me that asked for a review of the policy and a strengthening of the policy, and actually strengthening of the decision making around that policy, so that it wasn't necessarily just me in isolation, that I could talk in conjunction with either Donna or Lorna or the CE, or get some support for any decision that might be made.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that there's reporting on this. That's excellent work. There you go, look, a commendation.
Terry.
You can do
Terry.
it.
So just a point of clarification, for the Mayor Disaster Relief Fund, does it have to be declared emergency for that to kick in?
No.
So it says on application, after the event, you apply for the money, not on the event. So the event happens and you do it, then you've got to apply for the government to get the money out for the event. Is that the way I read it?
It can simply be a request. Is this a written a request for the emergency event fund could just be an instant thing, could be something to the mayor, and then we get some documentation around it. But you want to be in a position where you can move quickly, where there's been a disaster, and be able to release some funds.
But you have to declare it as a disaster.
No, it's just an emergency event.
So an example was just what's happened in Nelson recently with the flooding, and they were allocated money through that.
After the event,
So
obviously.
suddenly you had a sinkhole appear under your house, and you're a poor pensioner with with only a fixed income and no other assets, and you had a sinkhole appear under your house. You need a hell of a lot more than what you might get out of this, but you could immediately potentially get some relief funding for a hand to do something.
Are you talking about the 100 grand?
Yeah, it's after the event.
Yeah.
It's not during.
No, well, event's got to happen to be.
It's written here, it may provide financial contribution.
Yeah.
That's what we want, discretion.
Discretion, if you know. Yeah.
Because the 5 features going to the sea.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. I just understand what level of disaster level to trigger. So you're saying anyone can touch Nelson?
No,
It's got to be an emergency event.
It's at the discretion of the government I read that, so the
Yeah.
government decide, okay, that was an event, we'll give you some money.
Yeah.
No, hang on. I understood that the 100,000 is already in the disaster mayor's relief fund.
You have to apply for it, so
No, you never apply.
It's not sitting in our account.
it's not an yeah.
Well, let's apply for it, put in our account, and then
You can have the disaster.
Well, you know, an emergency, not necessarily a disaster.
So it's a government controlled money that they decide. That's what.
Yeah, so let's not.
What a place.
You see, they usually quite regularly though. Yeah. Yeah. So.
So let's, our main accountability really is, the 10,000 that's equally important, because that's
Is there.
that the mayor can do.
The right place on it.
Yeah, that's the right person. That's right. So let's not split, keep the ball mixed up.
I'll move.
I'll second it.
With those comments.
Emotional input.
Thank you, Lorna. Great work. Well, they do that, it can be done.
Donna, we've had a fair crack at the evaluation, but you probably want to come back and round off this paper for us, please.
Yes, so this paper is just seeking the committee's approval to officially change our evaluation cycle going forward to 30th of June, based on the trial that we have done this year.
Tony,
Yeah,
for
as already explained, that's about the significant increases, and also it's going to satisfy a recommendation in our management report from audit that we do change our evaluation cycle, as it's less risky to have it at 30 June.
And the point you've made is that we've used the views from essentially work, so we're confirming what we have moved to in terms of a basis. So
that's right.
The chair, I'll move that we receive the report and that we approve the change in evaluation. Please. Thank you, Sally. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that. It's a lot of work to get to that very quick paper, but appreciate the work you've done there on that. It's great. Debtors report, please. David, you're going to talk to this. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'll take the report as read and questions.
Any questions for Hayden about the report?
Questions? Good. Collecting money.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go for it.
I'd just like to congratulate the staff on really those very large decreases in outstanding rates. There is a little bit of a legislative thing that happened there, but a large chunk of that is actual hard work in the background. And it's also upping the ante a little bit, I think, isn't it, on outstanding debt. And there's potential to go a little bit further there too, in terms of reducing that debt.
Yeah, through the chair, that's exactly right. And, through, multiple channels and work to collect that debt. And I guess now we'll get into some more of the trickier ones. So, we did an abandoned land sale, the first one for a while recently, and I guess the other side of the coin is the rating sales. If we just can't get anywhere, I guess that's the next step. We don't want to go there, obviously, but I mean, we try our hardest through, bank or whoever, the external legal parties that we use, but at some point, that is our sort of the next step, unfortunately.
It looks like it's the lowest it's ever been.
It is, it's actually pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. Through the chair, that's the team really working hard with the likes of the internal legal team. So we work together, we meet monthly, and we pick from the list based on value, risk, and all of that, which ones we'll sort of target. And obviously, we're constantly communicating with everyone, but yeah, and it's just a case of sort of going through and working as a team, the best option is moving forward.
So they're just paying up to get rid of his thing.
Just, Hayden, you say you're working with Waikato Regional Council where possible?
Yeah. So
legally, or just as a?
Basically, quite often if somebody owes us money, they'll owe Waikato Regional, and we'll share costs in terms of the legal costs. So if we need to engage in external lawyers, they'll pay half, we pay half. That comes good. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't comment on now, but I think it might be useful as you go, dare I say, legal plan, but more importantly, thinking about our rating position in the new year, it might be useful to spend a wee bit of time, or one of your staff a bit of time, to think about what are some of the, what I would call prevent controls to stop people in debt. What are some of the ways in which authorities around the country are using mechanisms to encourage payment in the first place?
Yeah,
sorry, so that's you may feel like you're on top of that. That's great, but I'm just suggesting that.
Yeah, through the chair, we've done a few things already, but there's more to be worked on.
Yeah.
We've worked with the Tauranga City Council. They seem to do it quite well in terms of the collecting of due debt. They have a text message service, and that's something we're looking at, because apparently, well, according to them, it works quite well. But to give a reminder via text, hey, you owe this money, and then so it's just another tool, I guess. Yeah.
I think Waikato Region have gone to enabling essentially payments either on a fortnightly or a monthly basis. To enable proactively, you can elect to do that, so that it makes a better chance of great collection than not. So what I'm reflecting is I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. I don't need to say on too much more. Jerry?
Just one more around the Copa Marine Precinct and the MBIE Copa invoice for $3.7 million. Okay. See, some has been paid, but not.
Oh, through the chair, that was paid.
That is paid in total.
In September, yes, so.
In total.
Total, yeah.
Okay.
So it makes an employee even better.
Yeah.
Substantially even better.
Yeah.
That's what I'm. Can I move to the resolution, please, which is that we receive your report. Thank you, Terry. Seconder. Thank you, John. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried.
Thanks.
Treasury update. Hayden, don't go away.
Yeah, again, I'm taking the report as read, and if there are any questions, our external debt remains at the moment at 73 million, of which 6 million is pre-funded, so net 67 million.
Right, the critical thing that we're obviously going to be waiting for is when the $16 million next year rolls over. Well, either we could obviously, you may be able to pay some down, but I presume a fair chunk is going to be rolled, and it'll be a question of what can roll back. And that's going to determine pretty significantly our future costs. But as you say, when you say 67 million, so 16 million maturing next year is relatively comfortable. We're not overexposed.
No,
in terms of the total amount of debt that's rolling.
And through the chair, 6 million of that has already been borrowed to pay. So effectively, you've got 10 million.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah. So that minimises the impact on the rate increases next year.
And through the chair, we work with PwC, and they obviously look at that. Every month we meet. Yes. And that's something that's front of mind. That we have that debt maturing. And one of the things that does come up is should we pre-fund more of it?
Locking rates. Yeah. So I think the important thing of this report is that it from my look at it, reflects that the total management policy we have has been adhered to, both in terms of cover, that's on page 254, in terms of our exposure, which I thought you talked about really thankfully about the 16 million less the 6 million pre-funded, and the advantages that we're trying to take with our advisors through that. So that strikes me as a reasonable position. The only thing that I would draw reference to then is on page 251, which is the debt tracker. And obviously there's that one with the significant decrease, assuming 3 waters go through. And assuming that's the debt that the NTU are prepared to take over.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing is we've got, we've been debt before around the assets. There's also going to be the shiny suit boys looking at whether they should take over the debt that we ascribe to that. Okay, brilliant. Any other questions folks would like to raise?
Just to read around the interest rates with them sort of, creeping up from that, as a exposure?
Through the chair, we've done a couple of interest rate swaps to maintain policy, and they were in the sort of high threes, so still,
manageable.
Historically relatively good rates. We obviously did that blend and extend exercise a while ago, and so I think our worst swap is about 5 point something, but the average is in 3. So
3.6. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but there is clearly upward pressure, Martin.
Yeah, so if the average member of the public said to me, how come we're going from 67 million now to around 174 in 2028, what would your answer be?
That's through the chair, based off the fact of our capital program and debt related to that. So we've obviously got a sizable capital program, and that's based off.
And that 80% LTP, where do we have a number for what that might?
Through the chair, the 80% is assuming you don't hit 100% of your capital delivery program, which is
logically realistic, right?
We're not.
Where are we at with that at the moment?
In terms of last year.
Yeah.
I think capital delivery, if I remember, was around 50-60%.
Bruce, you'll give us a good number.
Maybe the equipment, I think maybe around that, right, it's around 60%. So it's on annual plan, and yeah, further back to the original, we revised it at the end of the year due to all the delays and COVID-related restrictions, but yeah, it's around about that, 60.
So I think, Mark, I think I tend to look at it the other way. Actually, our debt should be higher.
Yes.
Because we've delivered. So there are, very easy one of the things we've done this year, that's reflecting that actually the nature of our organisation is that spending is actually, in this case, good. Because it means that we're enhancing all the services that we're providing our community, and we've discussed with them. So we're behind the eight ball. It would be good to see that they're high, believe it or not, because it would mean we're doing it, albeit I suspect, again, I hate to say I've been a bad overhead lawyer on the annual plan. We might have to reprioritise, because I suspect the cost of what we can here in the LTP is probably substantially higher than it was when we first anticipated. So it'll be a challenge. Okay, thank you for that, Hayden. It's really helpful, and it's great to have PwC on board with a good report like this. I'll move from the chair that we received the Treasury update report. Thank you, Sandra. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Okay, elected members handbook. Ariana, how are you?
Well, I don't know, some of us don't really care.
Great attitude.
I mean, all I hope they can get.
Yeah.
Come to councillors, Mayor and Chair. I'll take the report as read.
Thank you very much. So look, I think the critical thing here is probably a couple of things in my mind. One is actually the program itself, which is mapped out in terms of dates and times. Does that make sense? I presume to some extent you may have consulted Ariana people already on as far as that's concerned. And then there's a sense, and this will be helpful. Sandra, as an outgoing elected member, doesn't have the information that you would have liked the day you stepped into the job.
Well, I think one of the things that they've got in there is around, because you see, I came in with a fair bit of knowledge from my cabinet.
I think it's rhetorical for other members that might have been Brad.
No. The critical thinking, and the critical thinking can be included with that decision making, which is in conjunction with what it says in the Local Government Act. And so I think that's really important. And I actually think that we could possibly start incorporating the risk element as a part of that decision making, so that it actually controls the thinking, so it doesn't become a, there need to be some levers of control over the decisions that might be made in terms of expenditure.
So you're talking there about the program on the 12th of October, I think on page 66.
Yeah.
How do we incorporate risk and critical thinking into that? So really good.
Well, it's an aspect of your decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, as you're putting it together, you've got to make a decision. You've got to consider all elements of that decision, and risk is one of them. One of the key things, I think, is ongoing operational costs. When you're looking at what you might make a decision on today, you don't necessarily think of what the continuing cost might be. Yeah. And I think that's really critical that there be a bit of a checklist for that decision-making criteria, and make sure you tick off all those aspects in your considerations.
You think that should be a day one thing though?
No, it's on here. What is that?
Yeah, we do citizen and recent coming to help with some of that decision-making requirements. And we are also looking to update our reporting template.
Yes,
Can I just say, I think that all the information is really important. I think delivery, it's all very well having a plan. I think delivery is crucial. Team building is crucial. So, there's only, however brainy people are, they can only use their brains for so long. And so I came in 6 years ago, had induction, had already knew a lot, and it was just pretty full on and not a lot of opportunity to, so I suppose I'm talking the soft stuff, but I think it's crucial to build the team because what they'll remember, most people remember, I don't know, 10% of what you tell them or something, that's a good go. So it's not just ticking the box, they know that. And one other thing, and then I'll shut up. When I first started getting involved in local government, I went to a workshop by Dame Tizza, and she said she got put on Auckland Council. Someone said, what's an ABC fund or something? They were talking about this fund. She didn't have a clue. She said, what's this fund? And no one else knew either. And so that persuaded her that silence doesn't mean everyone knows it. So the ability to ask questions and who will pick one, I think is really important.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Sally. John?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. I read the report and I was quite excited by it. It was, it's necessary. This council identified the induction program as being very important to the future of any council as far as sticking together, understanding governance management and working together. It has to have a foundation block. This is a great launching pad. Yeah, there may be some issues that are not quite right, but I think overall it's a damn good program. One thing I'll say to the councils, and I've said it here this morning, the councils are coming back, and this will be the fifth induction I've gone through. And I really don't, I'm not looking forward to it, but we should be there just to show buy-in into it and show the importance of it to other councils coming on board that have not been through it before. So, yeah, while there may be, I mean, there's still going to be value there, I'm sure, we'll really stuff, but it's important that we're there along with the new councillors. And team building. Sally, yes, you're right, and show the unity.
Can I just also make a couple of points? I wanted to thank all the elected members who actually contributed to helping with the induction program, because part of it was our team went around and interviewed you all, and so all of that knowledge has been really helpful in informing the program, so we really appreciate that feedback. The program, as it says, it's only the first 100 days, and we are well aware that induction is not something that you just stop. It's an ongoing training, so it's going to be throughout the whole training, and so we'll be taking further feedback on that throughout the program.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Make sure they do their homework. They need to do their homework.
Test them.
Yeah, I'm serious. They need to be doing some homework, and they need to.
Turns into a degree program.
Eh?
Turns into a degree program.
Yeah. Tell them they're fired if they fail.
I wonder if there are any more comments for Donna and guys.
It's good.
It's good?
Yeah.
Well, we'll be comfortable.
I've expressed my comment. It's very good, but I'm a little bit concerned about the facilitator, and I've said that even before.
Yes, I understand.
Meeting and some of the other solutions.
Say names, Hollywood and prop. When they want to run the World Cup.
Can I
Steve McDowell is doing it this time, and I'm not.
Can I just reflect? I don't have to be inducted. I do a wee bit of it actually, which is interesting. Ariana, I just would endorse Sally's comments. I've just been yesterday discussing an induction program that I'm responsible for, and we have allowed for half hour morning and afternoon break, an hour and a half for lunch. We have got everybody away with the only person they can talk to is their fellow colleague, but with the encouragement that there is suitable time in the way that you're saying, Sally, for relationships to be built.
Yeah.
So I'd encourage you just to reflect on that with your facilitators as to how do you develop that. Because that goes back to the point that I was making probably for Paku about the strategic risk of decision making. It starts from the bedrock of, are we a good team? And so I just to pass that on as a qualitative comment for the program. That's really good. Thank you for that. I think we're basically saying it's good. Lorna, you said you've already had a good chance to interview these people and develop it, and we're saying it's pretty near on the spot, which is great. So
while we're talking in general terms, one of the things that surprised me when I was elected last time was I was told that council guys don't have to go on community boards. In the other councils I know around the country, it's very rare to have that happen. And I just wondered, do we want to think about that? Because when we get a recommendation from a community board and we have to vote on it here, if we've had skin in the game of the community board, it's a bit of a conflict situation. And I'm just raising it now for people to think about, because I have felt uncomfortable on occasions, and that's why deliberately I don't vote on things, because I just go, I need to be ruling on this, and why should I be voting on it?
I think the media and governance, oh, sorry, Sally.
I just don't think that's an induction thing. I think that's a review of the role of community boards and where they fit within our structure and where it fits with the local government reforms, etc., etc., etc. So work in progress, I would say.
And that'll come out next month.
Yes.
No, sorry, I think I've got Tony first.
Well, for my part, I'd actually strongly support the elected councillors being part of the community board. If for no other reason, that we'll have to vote on anyone back. But it's a big help. I've always said to our community board, there are some things that I supported the community board with, knowing that when I came here to have the district discussion, that my decision might have to be different.
Yeah.
But because that we around this table are all privy to a lot more information, and we have a feeling for what's going on elsewhere in the district, it's helpful to add that to the discussion at the community board table. So I don't see myself in my time as being any more valuable or less valuable than anybody. The chair of that board was the chair. I was just a contributor. But for me, I found that invaluable, and I'd suggest that particularly they're going to be in most boards, not most boards at all, and half the boards are going to be councillors, and in our case, a whole new community board. It'll be very, very helpful to have people at least been around and know some of the ropes. So for me, I'm a strong advocate for all elected people to be around the community board table. Absolutely.
And somewhere in this, Ariana, and there must be a discussion ultimately in terms of induction and moving forward as well as the committee structure and what is the representation. So it would be really a formal piece where Gary's support has to be addressed, number one, and your views, Tony, and also taking on board some of the indications that will clearly come out in the future for local government. I had John first and Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce, for remembering it. That's awesome. But I'll tell you now, Tony just said word for word, just exactly what I was going to say. There's a difference between community board representation and district council representation, and that is just, I'll take that another step further, Gary. You should, when you sit at this table, be representing the district, not community board, so your decisions will be, or could be from time to time, different than the community board. And one thing that it does concern me is there's been some talk by the hopeful mayor or mayoral candidates that they will have a community board at the council, at the chair at this table. And while I like empowerment and grassroots stuff, I do believe that the community board chair was elected to represent the community they come from, and that's very clear cut. Whether or not they should be sitting at this table representing a district view is another argument that I'm prepared to actually have at some stage if it's necessary.
Can I just be careful that we're walking off the range here? Yeah. I was trying to say, John, there is a process. We're not here to debate what the future committee structure will be. Ariana, you've got to talk to this.
Yeah, through the chair, the arrangements are done through the representation of you, so.
Thank you. Problem.
I'm just very excited to read this because I think we were, and this came up in the interviews when you asked us our opinions, I think there were lots of places where our induction at this table could have been a lot better, and so I'm really excited that the next people hopefully coming through will be able to do this. And I think the one thing that I'm really hoping that all of the elected members take away from this is what their role is in council, because having been to a number of Met candidates meetings, I've been quite shocked and horrified about what people perceive as their role, and saying out the same things and what their role will actually be. And so that's what I'm really hoping that they'll absolutely get from that. And I assume you've got that covered to make sure that you're doing some fact checking as your role. And yeah, absolutely. Gary, John's point about where you sit and where your priority is a classic example of that. You know, that people, as district councils, we need to understand what our role is, both at the community board, where we're seconded onto that, and at the table where we're representing the entire district.
Well, when I the first community board The head of government said I was the first councillor that actually understood what their role was, and that's why I said I shouldn't be on the community board.
Right, can I put the conversation, please? We've agreed this is for a different time than now.
So with that, I'm going to move it.
Thank you, Rob. Do I have a second? I'll do that. Thank you, John. Any discussion on the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carry. Thank you for the hard work you guys have done on that, Carrie Anna, and all. That's given a good start. Are there any matters under members' report that people would like to raise?
Just one.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank Carl. Thank you, Carl, very much for your input over the years. It's really appreciated, and I've really enjoyed working with you. Yeah. God bless.
Yes, be productive, Carl.
Thank you.
Yes, Tony.
For me, at our community board meeting, I raised the issue that we have had at the Mobile Park, which I see potential for reputational risk to our council. That has been a very vexed project. So we inherited 12 years ago, and we have spent a lot of money, and we have engaged, spent a lot of community time. But for the event that was planned to be held there, which was the rugby match, Heartland's rugby match, first time in Rebecca Bay, it did present the opportunity to highlight that and to attract external funding to improve it. But when you had a turf failure of this magnitude, I won't be here, but I'll be hunting down the report. But I just say, there'll be some egos and faces somewhere, I think, and there's going to be some money to be spent that shouldn't have had to be spent. And I just think for the people returning, I think there is a reputational risk of that. So that'll be admitted in the medical minutes, so I have to say that there, and probably more vociferous terms. But other than that, I'm only wanting to say to all the staff members here and that are present, it's made my life quite easy. Thanks for what you've done over the years. And when I look around, there's not too many actually. I'm having a look, Bruce, the other day, and survivor actually over my 12 years, and a few not far behind it. And Bruce, what you've brought to the table, I think it's come a long way, and particularly on how we do look at our risk. And to my fellow councillors around this table, thanks for your perseverance, and for those who are standing, good luck. John, you don't need luck. And for those who said, no doubt I'll see you here complaining, the one thing you can guarantee is that I leave here on the 4th, will be the last to see it. So, and I'll say good luck.
Oh, yeah. Do we place our bets now?
Thank you.
As a person who's very used to betting, you can place any bet and I'll take it.
Okay, Murray.
I'm going to make my final comments at the last council meeting, but it's not only reputational risk at my part, the whole turf is going to have to be resized. So it's a considerable amount of financial money's got to have to go in there, considerable.
Right. Can I just check, given you've raised it, Bruce, is something that's under active management will come as a result of that?
Through the chair, it is under active management. We've got independent specialists involved assessing the situation, so it's involved with that.
Thank you.
Bruce, who is the lead and looking at the renewal? Which Derek Thompson is our Parks and Open Spaces Manager. Is that what you're asking? No, I'm asking who is the person actually leading, looking at it and getting, who's doing the leading to get the presentation on the grass, the soil testing, the fertility, everything that's going to be needed to do this? Who is actually leading it? So I know Derek's the departmental head, yeah, but I wonder what staff member is leading. So it's a bit of a team effort because we've got a guy who works here in Thames who's a turf specialist. He's been involved and he's had a look at it. And we've also got externals involved, as I mentioned, who are doing a lot of the. So we've got a turf specialist on council. You've got a turf specialist on council. So one of the guys who we've got working for us is a field rep here in Thames. He's got a turf background, so he understands turf quite well. But we are bringing in this, we have all of the specialists, particularly for that.
side.
Can I just reflect you, Mary, getting close to Aileen's management role? So
I just want confidence. And the reason I'm asking the question through the chair is that I'll say here and now, I have no confidence, and Tony will reiterate this, since that turf was planted. And there's been numerous specialists, advisors, and I won't go into why I have no confidence, but I've had no confidence since that turf was planted. And it's actually done what I predicted it would do, correct?
Absolutely correct.
So that's why I'm asking the question whether I want to know someone with the knowledge is doing that.
I think it would be helpful if, Bruce,
Give me confidence.
somebody you could provide an advice on the approach that's been taken. Obviously, they'll get better.
Can I just contribute to the accountability sits on my shoulders and it sits on Bruce's. Not necessarily people that sit below that. You know, if you want to have a hard conversation, come and have it with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's what I agree.
I just want to be sure that.
Any other comments that folk would like to make under members' report, please? I think we're moving on. Okay, can I move from the chair that we receive the members' comments?
I'll second,
Thank you, Sally.
and I'll move that we move into.
Well, first, I'll do the first motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes, carried. Then I will take your motion to move. Thank you, Robin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Can we, while the recording's going off, we get a time challenge. It's now time for lunch at 12:30, which is meant to be the end of the meeting. We still have, I think, a reasonable amount of time to get. Who's dressed this afternoon?